We got our bolts just hand tight. We're at the level that we want to be back there. We've got our post ratchet. Got 2 floats cut in half, so we got 4 half pieces stacked up because we're setting this one a little bit high. This lake floods quite a bit. Got them shifted past the end of the max lock, so it balances my weight a little better as I walk. You need that dock to be as close to level as you can as you're putting it in, so your post is going to ratchet in nice and flush and square to the support. Otherwise you'll have issues when you go to try to put the clamps back on. So we've got our max lock support. We took the end clamps off just so it doesn't bind up on the pole as we auger it in, and we run her down. We're getting a little crooked there, so what I'm going to do is reset now while I still can. Just your one chance once it starts going, otherwise you can have issues on the clamps just like any dock support if you're not square to it. So reset there. And because with the ratchet you can actually steer where the pole is going a little bit, because I can do little partial turns any direction really, versus just a piece of rod going through the hole. Pull my pin back here. I have my 2 5/16 Allen head cap screws and the clamp. Put that in place. You want to go back and forth on this. Make sure you're not cross-threading. Make sure you're not jamming it in at an angle. So we're just going to loosely go here. There we are. Cut in 4 halves. Got our mud auger about 3 feet from the bottom. You want that small auger to start drawing the big one in, and hopefully that'll help get enough bite as you go down. Make sure you're getting this square. Try to keep the dock about as level as you can. I'm going to go on the floats for this one to get the dock float higher. Here we go. Get that started nice and square. You can steer it as you go with little partial turns like this. I'm going to shift the floats around, get that to float as high as I can, as close to level. Weight on it, and then I'm going to move the ratchet down to the next hole. Once I get a chance, I'm going to jump in the water. Alright, pull it in, get in, and I keep going from here. But he finished this one out, so. we've got our dock floating. We're going out. I've got it pretty level. But this one we're kind of fighting a tree root. So I got to get in the water to try to better angle the bottom. So as you can see, it's floating very level. Got 2 floats cut in 4 halves. And there's a pallet right here for the boat lift. But then when I step off it, you can see I'm back up to my knees in muck. So we have our mud auger about 3 feet above the standard auger. I'm gonna push those so it's pretty much level. That way the pole will go in nice and square. And make sure the joint's still tight to the previous dock so we're not going in crooked with that. There we go. And now I can really start to steer it and use my feet to kind of help this mud auger kind of drive around this tree root and try to keep it nice and square. So pretty loose here. And again, there's the mud auger, the regular auger. So we got them spaced out. I'm about knee deep soft muck right now. Drive that nice and square and get around this old root. So we've got 2 different holes drilled in poles that are 9 foot or longer for this purpose. If you can't stand on the dock. So I'm steering it in a little bit, going over here, kind of help straighten it out. Mud auger's just getting into the top layers. Now I'm going to switch. I'm going to go back up. And see, here's the pallet for the boat lift again. You can see what a big difference that makes right on top of the mud. Adjust my ratchet. Pop the pin in. And now I can keep this nice and square. There we go. I'm watching the gap back there. Slide these right to the edge to keep it as level as possible. There we go. Now I'm going to put all my weight on it. Pallet. Sinking just enough. Fix this pallet here. There we go. Still fighting a little bit down low because the roots. They're getting there. Pallet's moving under my feet. Okay, so good there. We're gonna get back up on top, drive it down the last little bit. Just out of reach, unfortunately. So there we go. Squaring up the gap there a little bit. And now we're good. You can see how much this mud auger is working because last year, we just had this mud auger today. Last year these poles were in the same spot. You can see the staining was to here. So these were driven that far down into the water. With a lot less resistance, so you can see how much that mud auger helps above the standard auger. A lot of of times we find that people without these auger, the ratchets, or if they're a single-handed ratchet, you can't get the same leverage and it will pull it sideways. But if you're just using a bar or screwdriver, a lot of times you're not getting it deep enough to actually be effective. So this really helps a lot. And now we got the other holes just a little bit below the surface of the deck. We're gonna leave these up a touch higher so we can hang our bumpers on it. Get my holes so they're all lined up, ideally. So it looks nice, and there we are. Get that off. And then I just put the end of our max lock back in there, tighten up our bolts back here, and we keep going.